Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, How to Perform Keyword Research for Google Search Campaigns in Life Sciences. My name is Verzijl from Verzijl, and today I'm going to guide you a little bit through the steps that we developed to perform keyword research for life science brands in Google. So quickly, before we start, let's just go over the topics of today. First, I would like to start off with some kind of introduction, a little bit about Sciential, about the company that I work for. Then I'm going to introduce the case to you, followed by the 9 steps of keyword research that we developed. And then I would suggest to go to work. I'm going to show you, guide you through the steps, show you how I do it. Of course, it will be some kind of a simplified version, but just for you to get the gist of how we do keyword research. Then we can finalize with a short recap and draw some conclusions. And for those of you who are interested, we develop a handy essay checklist. I'll give you the opportunity to sign up for it, but that's just at the end of the program. So like I said, let's start off with a little bit of an introduction about ourselves, about Sciential, the company that I work for. We are a leading digital marketing agency in the life science sector. So basically what we do, we help life science companies to successfully execute campaigns structured around awareness and conversion, and all the way everything between digital data and digital marketing. And we do that especially, like I said, for life science companies. So work for CROs, CDMOs, CMOs, but also like virtual clinics. We help them generate their main goals, which is typically creating brand awareness or consideration or even brand preference. But typically it's structured around generating leads, generating sales, if that's their main objective. We are headquartered in Rotterdam, in the Netherlands, and we've served over 60 clients. And like I said, these clients are basically structured around the whole life science ecosystem. So we work for biotechnology companies, medical technology companies, and of course pharma and clinical, amongst other frictional clinic, like I already pointed out. A little bit about our track record. As said, over 26 clients successfully served. We mainly work in Europe and Europe mainland, but of course we've served clients in the US and Canada, but also in Asia and the Middle East, for instance, UAE or Israel. We have like 10 plus years experience in digital marketing and over 15 years of experience in life sciences itself. About our services, I already touched upon it shortly, but we work through the whole funnel. We're basically a full funnel digital marketing agency. So we work end to end, and it all starts with strategy, developing the strategy. So basically determine the route, how to obtain the objectives that our clients set for themselves. We typically design a playbook in which we draw our strategy. We line it out in a playbook with a year strategy. And we touch upon, for instance, branding and of course commercialization. And we do that with 3 layers in terms of the execution and the tactics, which is basically structured around digital products. And digital products, as the word already tells you, it's basically building things. So it could be a website, web shops, landing pages, but also advertising assets and social media content. Of course, advertising, which is basically our core activities, so to say, because with our experience in digital marketing and experience in life science, pardon me, we obviously know where the target audience is and how to reach them with what kind of message and through what channels. Typically, we use LinkedIn ads, Google ads, Meta ads. So today, especially, we dive into Google ads, but that is just one of the channels that we touch upon. And lastly, everything in digital marketing revolves around data. Of course, that is also something that we do. We help with generating data insights through dashboarding, through web analytics, but also, for instance, marketing automation is one of the sub-services that we provide. So a little bit about today, as already introduced, how to perform keyword research for a life science company. we developed 9 simple steps, and it's revolved around a case. It's a fictional case called, the company is called Verzijl Laboratories or Verzijl Labs. Shortly, let me introduce this specific case. Well, in terms of the company profile, the hypothetic company is called Verzijl Laboratories, and it's a full-service CRO, and they are specialized in vitro ADME, tox and bioinformatics services. So something about their services specialize in high throughput ADME screening, customized ADME assays, but also in vitro technology, toxicology with USPs such as faster drug development through modeling and AI, but also in terms of animal free. They are fully animal free in terms of the research and development methods, and they have customized ADME tox models. And in terms of commercial goal, they want to capture demand for their services in the North of America and Europe. It's a little bit about the company. We designed, of course, a persona, which could be like a Jessica, who's a CEO. And for instance, we defined a little bit of a profile, how we should target her, of course, and obviously, Google search engine is a logical place for her to start her search. That makes sense because that's like the main platform you use when you want to find information. So this is basically always holds true, but especially in this case, when we're going to do the keyword research, it makes sense that she's going for searching for information in that specific place. And obviously, as a logical consequence of the company information, she looks to reduce the risks of drug development, and she wants to, of course, advance candidates for clinical trials. We've identified some pain points. We've identified some interest fields. But typically, her company, where she's CEO of OncoLife Therapeutics, it's a preclinical drug development company, and they develop cures for cancer. It has a headcount from 10 to 500 employees. It's established approximately 17 years ago in the UK, Cambridge to be more specifically, and they're in the industry of biotechnology and pharma. That could be interesting when we're targeting, for instance, on LinkedIn. But today, as said, we're going to discuss Google. As introduced, we have these 9 steps developed. The 9 steps, they make up the word sciential. But basically, it all starts with making a long list of keywords. Then we can see whether we can enrich those keywords with some long tail suggestions. And subsequently, we can have a look at their organic rankings, right? Because instead of SEO, they all most likely put effort in SEO. So there already are some keywords that already rank organically. We can include that as well. And subsequently, what we typically do, we have this 3D vision, or 360-degree vision rather, in which we want to consult the visions, the opinions, and the ideas of colleagues and stakeholders. Typically, we use a form for that. For this example, for this case, for this webinar, we already fill out a form, but it just serves as an example. We do have this 360-degree vision, which we want to guide you through. After we have included those keywords from the colleagues and stakeholders, we want, as we call up, nudge up the list with a competitor gap analysis. So instead of just focusing on ourselves, we try to get a look at the main competitors. What keywords are they advertising on? What keywords are they ranking? And are there keywords that they are ranking on organically that our company does not rank on? So that could be interesting to have a look and see if there are some keyword possibilities there as well. After we have done all of that, we can then transform the long list rather, into a short list. because you will see, and especially as a result of the first step, there already are some keywords in it that not are necessarily relevant towards the business case. So we can see if we can delete those keywords, maybe also keywords that have been issued by some of your colleagues or stakeholders, maybe are not the most relevant keywords. We can delete them from the list, but it makes sense to do that or include that as an exposition. Then the step 7 is basically identify keywords themes. Yeah, in this exposition, in this webinar, we're going to have a long list and we're going to shorten the long list. But then again, it takes some work, takes some effort to actually come up with very specific themes. It should also be maybe a team effort. So I'm going to show you how it typically works. We're not going to do the full exposition because that takes maybe some hours, some weeks, maybe, or days rather. It takes some time, but I'm going to show you how I typically do this. And then we're going to analyze that short list with keyword themes and identify what the search volumes are. So how many times a month do people actually search for those keywords? And in terms of competition, what is the level of competition? So it could also be interesting to see whether other companies also try to advertise, try to be visible on those keywords, and maybe you find some golden nuggets on the one hand, or maybe you identify that some keywords are very popular by your competitors, and that could also be a strategy, right? To then double down on those keywords as well to make sure you also be visible and that you are also considered by people searching for those keywords. When we've done all that, I'm going to show you one of the tools we use to build up campaigns very fast and very efficient, because setting up campaigns manually in Google Ads is a very time-consuming process and very error-sensitive exercise. We typically use with an offline version of Google Ads, which is that Google Ads editor. And we're going to show you quickly how we do this. But I think that specific topic needs a webinar of its own. But those 9 steps are basically the essence or the core of our keyword research. And as said, I just want to guide you through the process and just show you guys how we do it. So first, before we start, I'm going to quickly change my screen a little bit because like I said, I'm going to actually show you how we do this. So like I said, the first step, creating a long list of keywords. And for that, we use a tool. It's called the Google Keyword Planner. Maybe you're familiar with the tool because it's basically one of the most beautiful tools out there when it comes to digital marketing. And it's basically free to use if you're an advertiser on Google. And basically, it provides you the possibility to discover new keywords based on maybe your website or put in some keywords. So we can go two routes to take, so to say. On the one hand, we can fill out the website, or we can do some insert some keywords. Typically, we want to insert some keywords because we think that method is a little bit more precise and a little bit more qualitative. So we're going to do just that. I've opened all those windows in our browser. So like I said, I'm just going to show you that we have the keyword planner, and we're going to insert some qualitative keywords. So for instance, like I said, I've given you the introduction of the case. So it makes sense, for instance, to go to insert those services that our client or hypothetical client offers. So, for instance, customize me essays. If you throw talks, would also be interesting. They touch upon animal-free R&D models. So maybe, or methods rather, maybe you can use R&D-free R&D methods. It could be interesting. I'm just going to insert a couple of keywords. You're free to, you have the liberty to insert up to 10 keywords. So make sure that you try to be as precise, as relevant as possible. Don't use too generic keywords. Let me see, maybe 3RS, or replacement, reduction, or refinement, or NC3RS could also be interesting, and maybe one of a little bit more generic admin talks. So I think this will do the trick for us to create a long list. So I'm just going to hit get started. And here you see some of the examples. I'm going to change the settings a little bit, because by default it's set on the Netherlands, because we're located there. But if we leave this, then we basically take the whole globe. Let me see, there's something that's not working that well. It's all live people, so let me just go to this again. We already typed in some keywords here. Let me do just this, and then maybe indeed go for animal-free R&D models, maybe 3RS or NC3RS, replacement, reduction, refinement. Maybe include a little bit more generic of a term. Admin talks. So if like approximately 8 keywords, like I said, we have up to 10 keywords. So I think we're solid here. Just go to hit get results, and then we're going to wait. So here you can see, for instance, the keyword that I put in, and then some of the keyword suggestions from Google. Here I'm going to adjust the settings a bit, so it's typically default selected on the Netherlands because we're located there. I'm going to redo this, and then hopefully we get some more keywords. I see we don't have that many keywords, and some of them are quite irrelevant already because it triggers somehow car types, for instance, and it's due to the 3RS. So I'm going to delete that for a second. For instance, can hit get results and maybe add some keywords later on as well. So here you can see it's kind of basic. So I try to these toxicology, maybe admin screening could be interesting. Try to see if we get a little bit more results. Not really. So maybe high throughput screening could be interesting as well. Still not many of keywords. Maybe what we can do, if we maybe, like I said, it's a fictional case, so it's not a real company. So I'm going to, for instance, go for cyprotex.com as being one of the competitors. Maybe that helps a bit. Let's wait for it. Water in the meantime. Does not give that many inputs, but it could also be an answer, right? So our long list now is a little bit short, but that doesn't matter. It's just about the acquisition. I'm just going to download it and include it in our list later on. This will take a second here, for instance. I'm going to select our not so long list, but at least long list now is relevant, so that's a good thing as well. All right, so we did that acquisition. Maybe next time when you do this keyword research yourself, you try to come up with a long list. Maybe try to include a little bit of more generic keywords. Hopefully, it gets you a little bit more results. Doesn't necessarily guarantees that you get the right results, But yeah, especially for a long list, maybe you want to have some more options to go through. But I think for this case, it's perfectly fine, and indeed, it's still relevant. And these are still some keywords that contain a lot of search volume. And that's something we're going to dive in deeper a little bit later. So one of the later steps. But here you can see it's still on the cutting edge of being relevant and having enough search volume. So I think for now, for the first step, we're good to go. But keep it in mind for when you do this yourself. All right, then we go to the second step, and it's basically consider Google's long tail suggestions, because now we filled out some keywords and they're all like relevant, but people yeah could search for generic keywords, but typically people have like a more specific search intent. Therefore, they use so-called long tail keywords. It's basically keywords, keyword combinations rather, with multiple keywords in it. So basically we can do that. So for instance, I'll take, let's go for, in this case, high throughput AdMe screening, or let me go for AdMe screening a little bit more generic. Here you can see the search engine result page, of course. Now here you have Cybertext, one of the competitors, so to say, that's also advertising on these keywords. So by the looks of it, we're being relevant, but also Thermo Fisher. We all know, of course, Thermo Fisher. But here at the end of the page, here, for instance, you can see a couple of keywords suggestions. So maybe can include that as well. I try to come up with as many as possible. Of course, you can have a more critical look when you do this yourself. But now, just for the sake of example, just want to show you guys how we do things. You can maybe move this. I think this comparison also makes sense to include it. Anything else? That are maybe less interesting. Then I'm going to, for instance, look for AdMe Talks. Let me see what kind of suggestions gives me there. Drugs, a little bit generic. Maybe Talks properties makes sense to include. Going back to Google, maybe AdMe analysis to include that, whether that's completely high intent. It's maybe another discussion. For the sake of example, just going to put in here high throughput screening. Also, let's see what Google comes up with. Search bar again. There we go. A lot of ads running on this keywords, but I think that makes sense, of course. We're not the only one. Well, it could be interesting to maybe include drugs discovery and process later on. Makes sense, right? That's still maybe a little bit generic for the use case. But now just, like I said, for the sake of example. And let me see, maybe Silico AdMe. Some hard times to select it and copy it, but I managed. Let me see what the suggestions here are. Well, Swiss AdMe, it's interesting. This is exactly what I was looking for, but it could be interesting. AdMe prediction. I think this one makes sense. And then subsequently, yeah, let's go for ad distribution. But yeah, that's basically already in the abbreviation, of course. All right. I just want to have one more. Let's go quickly for customize AdMe essays. See what Google provides here. You feature admin essays. Sure, makes sense. And like toxicity essays. Yeah, the stress essays. In vitro, EMP. Yeah, good to include this. All right, now we already have a list of 21 keywords, but keywords. I think the example is clear, right? So you first start off with a long list, could be longer than this example, and then based on this long list, you try to pick some or select rather some relevant words and try to go after the long tail suggestions in Google because they're typically a little bit more relevant, and that's something that you will not come up with yourself because they are maybe too specific for you to come up with in the first place. So you can do this for hours, of course, and try to be as specific as possible. My suggestion is try to do this also for hours. Make it as a precise exposition as possible, and make sure you're not leaving out on anything or missing out on anything, because this is quite an important step in the whole process. But for now, like I said, for the sake of example, it's I think it's good as it is. So now we covered step 1 and step 2. Let's see if we can continue with improve a long list with organic keywords. So basically step 3. Here we have, we typically leverage another tool. So at first we use the Google Keyword Planner, one of the tools that Google provides. Then of course the Google search engine itself for the second step. And now we can leverage SEMrush. SEMrush comes with a paid subscription, so I'm well aware that not every company maybe watching this webinar has a subscription for SEMrush, but it's some of the tools that I highly recommend when you're in the area of digital marketing or search marketing more specifically, because it gives a lot of relevant insights. Well, let's dive into step 3. Within SEMrush, you got a couple of options, a couple of tools, and there are plenty. Of course, for this also counts. You can have a separate webinar only to go through SEMrush, but now we're going to use the so-called keywords magic tool, or maybe it makes more sense to have a keyword overview. The thing is here, we don't really have a real company, of course. It's theoretic. So I'm going to select one of the competitors. So again, Cybertex. Go for domain overview worldwide, and later on we can see what keywords they have ranked on as of late. This goes per country. So the examples that you see here are then for the US. But I think it still holds lots of valuable insights for us to go after, or to dive in rather. Here you can see one of the, an overview of the keywords that they rank organically on. It comes with a lot of data, with the exact URL, so the landing page rather, the amount of traffic that those specific keywords have yielded, but also the search volumes, an average over the last 12 months, and also the positions. So as you can see, Cybertex, you got to give it to them. They're doing quite a good job. If all these keywords that they rank on position 1 or position 2, so they do a phenomenal job. So we can leverage their good work and try to export this data. Again, we're still adding on the long list. So, the first 2 steps didn't generate that many keywords for this extra exposition, or this example rather. But now, this will give us some more insights. Here we go, Cyprotex. Let's go. I'm going to quickly add a filter to this. Because for position ones, typically it's not very relevant, and we have a lot of keywords, so maybe we can exclude everything, well, except everything with a position or ranking rather higher than 50. I think it makes sense for this exposition. Go. This takes a while. There we go. Sorry for keeping you guys waiting. Copy, paste, and again, we're going to add this to the long list. So now we're making a volume. So that's a good thing for now. I'm going to copy formatting because otherwise it's my personal preference, so to say. So here you can see these are a lot of keywords, but it looks of it, it's still relevant, and that of course makes sense because ciphertext wouldn't rank for those specific keywords when they weren't relevant. Of course, within this list there are like exceptions. I think we're good for now with this nice list. We also, what you also can do, maybe you have like the same issue, so to say, as I encounter in this specific webinar. Maybe you can also redo step 3 or step 2 after step 3, because now you have basically a lot of more inputs to maybe go for the long tail suggestions in Google. So maybe you can do both. Also do the step 2 after step 3. So do it twice. It makes sense. And it only makes your research better. It costs a little bit extra time, but it makes it gives you a lot of extra body. So it makes sense for you to do this as specific and as precise as possible. And yeah, adding more long tail suggestions to this new list make absolute sense. But for this example, yeah, we improved the organic list or the original list with some organic keywords. Yeah, things to consider. I already listed like the search volume, CPC, and competition. Now I just included everything with a good precision. But yeah, you can make decisions, of course, based on whether people are actually searching for this keywords or yeah, when you want to have a low competition, for instance, especially when you have such a big list as Cybertext showed us. So that's something to keep in mind. But moving on with step 4, yeah, as we tend to call it, elaborate on keywords with your colleagues. This is basically where the 360 view comes in, because we know everyone is in some kind of a bubble, right? So yeah, of course, as life science marketers, we see things from a specific angle, but we also love to hear input from, for instance, product managers or maybe scientists or people in the lab or even maybe business development people, because they maybe have also a little bit more commercial side on things and know where people are, yeah, commercial people are searching for. But again, people in the lab maybe are more into, well, the research or the scientific experts, so to say, so they can also provide some new input. So basically, that's why we included this step. What we typically do is we use a type form for this. So we, for our clients, we make, for instance, such a form with some, yeah, some examples. Yeah, it's quickly to fill out. Yeah, what keywords come in mind, relation to a specific keyword, such as or services rather, ADME essays, or predictive modeling in relation to in silico ADME predictive modeling, but also in vitro, yeah, everything that could be relevant. we make up these surveys, we share them with our clients, and we subsequently ask our clients to make them fill out by as many people in the organization as possible. So, like I said, it could be people varying from marketing to the C-suite boards, all the way to the lab or business development people. It doesn't really matter. For this exercise, some of my colleagues have filled it out, so I have 2 responses. That's not that many, but here you can see whether we can use something about it. Here you can see I specifically asked whether people could name keywords. It doesn't necessarily need to or has to say that it also contains a search volume, because what we often see is that people are very precise or very specific with the keywords that they bring up, especially people with more technology, a more scientific background, or more dealing with technology on a daily basis. They're very in-depth. They have this in-depth knowledge. They typically their keywords are quite specific, but it doesn't really matter. It could also everything is basically good input. And later on, we can have this other exercise, which we have a look whether those keywords contain value, whether they contain volume, or maybe the other way around, right? It's too broad because, for instance, this specific example, with keywords, for instance, tax could be relevant, but tax is very generic. But see, at the end of the day, it contains a lot of search volume, but I think it's way too broad to include in this exercise. For instance, the same goes for instance, in vitro, in vivo. Of course, that's affiliated, that's associated with the ADME essay. I believe this was the question. Yeah, ADME essay, but then again, it's still kind of broad. But we can just go over it and just include it, and then later on we can see if we can have this exercise where we have critical look at the volumes and competition, etc. So this 3D view, so to say, it makes sense to include. See if I can quickly manipulate this data set to get in some keywords that we can include. Like I said, again, it's all live and try to be as real as possible. So I really need to fix this on the spot. So separate columns. Then we can transpose. Yeah. So between the lines, some Excel tips as well coming through. So I need to go back to my screen. Yes. Okay. Back to the ends. Here again, I can add the specific keywords that your colleagues could provide, or yourself, of course. As you can see, it takes some labor to get out of get the exact keywords out of this something out of this document. So what I'm going to do is going to include this little list as well. Then include this, transpose. All right, now I have a little list. Yeah, typically you should do this, of course, with all the keywords, but just to keep up some pace in the webinar, to leave it as is. This, of course, here you can see people, of course, have overlapping keywords, but we can all balance it out and compensate for that later on. Okay, having that said, this is basically the 4th step then. So including the 3D view, I cannot stress it out too much. Maybe this is one of the most important steps. So absolutely make sure that you include as many colleagues as possible or stakeholders as possible, because everyone has a different view, and also try to think from your audience. So who makes decisions at the side of your potential clients? Try to mimic those researchers. Try to See if you can ask similar, well, colleagues with similar job titles to provide you from inputs with of keyword inputs, because that absolutely makes sense to include in your keyword research. Otherwise, like I said, you all are yeah, thinking from your own bubble, and that doesn't really strengthen your keyword research, so to say. So just a little reminder and a yeah, just to stress it out a little bit. Proceeding, moving on. Yeah, notch up the list, as we tend to call it, with competitor analysis. And again, this is something where SEMrush comes in. Now, like I said, SEMrush is one heck of a tool which has lots to offer. Like I said, we can analyze domains, but we can also do competitor analysis. And more specifically, we can do competitor gap analysis. And a gap analysis is, I can show you again, I'm going to have this root domain or seed domain from Cyprotext, because we don't have our case is fictional, so to say. And I've just collected VT, for instance, as a research company that is competing, MDPI, etniscope.com, and for instance, also cdgenomics.com. You can enter up to 5 competitors, but yeah, you can see that that's more than enough. Basically, what this tool does is analyzing the keywords that these companies rank organically for. You can also do this for paid search, for instance. But the yeah, I can say here, for instance, unique keywords, but untapped. These are basically the keywords where your competitors are ranking for and you are not ranking for. So basically, these are like missed opportunities. And I typically try to indeed find the sweet spots in terms of keyword difficulty and keyword search volume. See, not everything is completely relevant. For instance, yeah, let me filter first. For instance, MDPI. Let's see the keywords that they rank for. Take this position, for instance. It doesn't really work as I plan to. Well, for instance, here you can see, yeah, these are just quite maybe not all those keywords are relevant. But what I suggest is you download them, you add them to your long list, and then subsequently you have a look, you have a second look whether they are could be interesting for your company objectives or not. So this is a lot of data. These are a lot of keywords, but still your competitor is ranking on them and you're not. So they're worth investigating. Absolutely. Go to download it, all data, and then simply just going again, add it to our long list. Our long list wasn't really long in the beginning, right? But we're adding up. Just for the sake of example, firstly, I try to do some sorting out on volumes, because otherwise it's yeah, you can see here not everything is relevant, right? So I said something like NBA players or something. But for now, it's an exposition. Just going to edit, I add everything. Later on, we can have a look. So we're already down over the 1300 keywords before I add this. So now I think maybe it's a little bit stuck because there are too many keywords in here. Well, yeah, it's still working. Okay, that's great. So we did some competitor analysis. Again, I'm going through this very, very rapidly, and I made some simplified decisions just for the sake of example. But yeah, the more thorough you go through these steps, the better your keyword research is. Because, like I said, you touch on different subjects. You first look, uh, try to add keywords from your own bubble. You try to come up with Google suggestions. You come up with your colleague suggestions. Then you come up with keywords that are what your competition ranks good for. So basically, you have all these different angles and well, different resources, so to say, to add to your keyword analysis, and it makes it even better. So I'm doing this step within a couple of minutes, but like I said, just go over it for a couple of hours if you have the time, and try to do it as good, as critical as possible, and make it absolutely worth the execution. But for now, this is basically how we include the part of the competitor analysis. Step 6, and this is also a bit time consuming, especially since we have added so many keywords. We're going to transform the long list into the short list. Typically, what we do, we try to create a couple of versions, so maybe 2 or 3 versions, and try to go over this in teams. For instance, we work for clients, we have 1 versions, and we go critically through this list, and maybe we try to work with some colors, for instance, green, orange, and red. Sorry, people, I need to make it a little bit more dark. Anyways, we just go over all those keywords, try to mark them with a specific color, and see from our point of view whether they are still relevant or they're not relevant. So we're not yet looking at competition, not yet looking at search volume. I just want to know if a prospect search on this specific keyword, is it relevant for my business? That's basically what we should be doing. And the reason why we have like different versions, I want my team, for instance, to do this exposition, but I will also want my client's team to do this exposition, and maybe they have another internal team to have a look at it. So we make sure we not miss out on relevant keywords or exclude keywords that maybe could have generated leads in retrospect, right? So that's basically why we do this quite intensively. So for instance, of course, these are relevant, right? Because I add them myself. But for instance, if we go further down the line, mini Ames essay, yeah, let's say this seahorse, yeah, this, I don't think this is completely relevant towards the business, right? So this we could, for instance, exclude, yeah, everyone can go over this. Here, for instance, it's going to be more generic again. For instance, we saw this NBA player. Where was it? Pretty sure I saw it. Oh yeah, yeah. For instance, I think those keywords are not so good, right? So especially when you have done these, the first step, where you let Google give you some keyword input, but also those competitor analysis. These are just, you're working with bulk lists. So you need to make sure that you go over it manually. And as you can see, it could be quite extensive, to be a quite intensive job, so to say, because you need to go over like 30,000 keywords. So maybe you can divide work within your little team per version to go over it. But it makes sense. I need to say, because I downloaded the keyword analysis, didn't go really critical through it, didn't add relevant filters. The list is now quite big, because typically when you come out at this stage of the keyword research, around between 3,000 to 5,000 keywords, then you are doing just fine. Those are the amounts of keywords that you should take into account, that you end with your long list for these specific markets or these specific industries. And right now, yeah, due to a lack of filtering, it's kind of big, but yeah, you get the idea. Go over this manually. Try to make inclusions, exclusions. Where you're in doubt, just highlight it as well. when you think, okay, this might be very specific. I'm not sure whether we cover all of this. Just highlight it in orange, and then yeah, we can later on have a look whether to include it or exclude it. Good. That was step number 6. Then we're going to, that's maybe one of the most time-consuming parts. We try to identify keyword themes. So for instance, um, let me go, just theoretically, we say there are lots of relevant keywords. We exclude them all. And just for the sake of example, I'm just going to delete this. And now we say, okay, these are the ones that we want to include. Still kind of low, but just for the sake of example again. All right. So maybe now we can have like topics or themes rather. So what could, yeah, could be grouped because we do this basically to create a overview, to create a structure, but also later on in Google Ads, we're going to make ad groups, keyword groups. And basically all those keyword groups, they have like 1 or 2 responsive ads. So they all have like an advert with 15 headlines and 4 description lines, which Google will optimize and go for the right combination per user intent. So therefore, it makes sense to make keyword buckets, to make keyword groups, themes rather. Google call them ad groups, but it's one of the exercises that we should do. Again, try to do this in groups. I know from experience that people mainly perform keyword research on their own, right? Because yeah, you're the marketer, you're tasked with search engine advertising, search engine optimization. You do you, and good luck. Yeah, I tend to advise work in teams. Let as many people as possible to look at it, and also that goes for the 3D view part when you ask colleagues, etc., and stakeholders, as we did in step 4. But also, and maybe especially with these keyword themes, because you really need to think through how to group those keywords, because at the end of the day they're going to see the same ad, so to say, and maybe have the same landing page. So you really need to go over the search intent of each keyword. So are people searching for a high throughput ADME screening? Are they looking, for instance, do they have the same search intent as ADME tags? Do you think it makes sense to show them the same ad or let them land on the same landing page? These are the things that you need to take into account and need to consider before grouping keywords. So yeah, I think for instance, okay, call these talks. For instance, I think these could be grouped perfectly fine. Maybe everything involves AdMe and screening that works perfectly fine and together. But things might get a little bit more complicated further down the line when you have all those long tails. So really have people have a look at it from different disciplines. Try to have a discussion about the search intent. That's the underlying factor, and that's something you should take into account. People are hitting the search engine with a specific intent. They need to find something. So the keywords that you're grouping, do they have the same underlying search intent? Do they need to land on the same landing page? That's the exercise that you should be doing, and that's the exercise that you should take into account when grouping those keywords into themes. I hope that's relevant. Yeah, obviously, I try to just go over it, give some examples, and try to see how we do it. Yeah, it takes too much time, too many effort, of course, to really dive into this in this webinar. But just to give you some tools and hopefully some food for thought. That people are is basically step number 7. Selecting keyword themes, and then yeah, the penultimate step rather is to analyze the search volumes in competition. And then we can go to the tool that we used in the first step. We can use Google Keyword Planner. So for instance, if we go back and select those keywords, again, yeah, we're just have now the selection of 22 keywords because I deleted it for the sake of example. But typically you have yeah, plenty more keywords. This is our previous exercise. Basically, within the keyword planner, you have like two routes to take. On one hand, you have like discover new keywords. That's basically the thing that we did in the first exercise. So we had some a seed list of keywords that we want Google to make some suggestions based upon. That's the first option. The second option is get search volumes and yeah, potentially forecasts. The difference between the two is, yeah, apart from the one giving new ideas and the other give search volumes, the first one just limits you to insert 10 keywords, and the second one is unlimited when it comes to keywords. So that's the one that we should take. Now let me just go over those 22 keywords. Let's see what the volumes are. Here you can adjust those columns. Now you see I included search volumes, but you're also able to, for instance, add competition. All right, so here you can see it. We have some keywords with a lot of search volumes, others with a little bit less search volumes. Typically, yeah, the more specific keyword research, the more relevant, but then again, yeah, they have lower search volume, so need to find a sweet spot in that. Yeah, again, we can download this and to try to add it to our like final list, so to say. Let me see if we can download it. Go. The export does not look that clear, but I've done this a couple of times in my life, of course. So I know what to delete and what not. All right, now I deleted these parts. I know, for instance, that's okay. Now I see I exported the wrong file, so to say. So pardon me, we're going to do this exercise one more time. Because what I did was I downloaded the forecast and I needed to download the historical metrics. That was wrong. So again, a little bit delayed, but here we go. Here we can see indeed this is more clear, right? So now we have this to a little bit a better overview. Then I can delete this. For instance, this could also be interesting for each keyword to see what like the seasonality is. Is there a difference between periods, certain periods of months? You can also have a look back longer in time, for instance, 5 years. Then you can see what how the search volume evolves over the years. It could also be interesting. For now, I'm just looking for plain stats on average search volumes. So I'm just going to delete the currency. Over here, for instance, now we have like our final list cleaned up. Again, it's quite simplified. I just deleted, hundreds of thousands of keywords, but now we have this keyword list of 22 with the search volumes. Then I can, again, try to put it in the final folder. So for instance, we have here a keyword research, our exposition. Here you can, for instance, go for a final list. What have you. You can try to paste it. I did it like this, like I did the whole exposition in the same tab. What I also do sometimes is I try to include each step in a different tab, so it remains clear when you edit what, so to say. Maybe also clear for other people to basically follow your logic. follow what you have been added each step. So that it could also make sense, but this is like the simplified version. You have like one tab in which you have your keywords from your whole acquisition, and then you make like a final tab with the definite keywords. And here you can make some strategic decisions. Pardon me. For instance, here we can see everything around, well, animal free doesn't really work. Of course, we deleted some 3RS keywords as well in the beginning. Here you can see this maybe is a little bit too broad, also based on the keywords. We're going to delete this. So basically here you can make some nuances and some final changes for your final list to eventually to work with. Then basically we're at the end of the keyword research with the final list cleaned up manually with a final list for keyword research, which we can focus on Google ads, for instance, for SEA advertising part, but also maybe organically for SEO, how to optimize your website to get better rankings. And brings us to the final step. Of course, like I said, we use, for instance, the offline version of Google Ads, which is called Google Ads Editor. For instance, you have the liberty to just directly create campaigns from Excel directly into Google Ads with some smart tools, instead of logging in Google Ads and try to click and add campaigns and add groups and keywords and ads manually. You can all do that together with some simple steps rather. I can make a webinar about Google Ads Editor for the ones that are interested. If so, just reach out to us or reach out to me personally, mark@scientialmarketing.com, and I try to, if there is, there are more people that want to make a video about it, then I'll make one and let you see how to create Google Ads, set up campaigns with the most efficient way possible, and saves you plenty in hours and hours of time. So that could be maybe interesting as well. So basically, these are like the final steps. I went over the keyword research, showed you every step. Like I said, there are plenty of nuances to make, and in each step you can put in hours, and I suggest you put in hours because it makes it better. Because typically in most of the cases, and for the most companies I work for, you do keyword research maybe once within 3 or 5 years. Typically keyword research has been done, and then it becomes, well, legacy. So people they part ways from the company, and new people come in. They also be using that same keyword research. So especially for yourself as a life science marketer, or whoever you are that are concerned with the keyword research, it makes absolute sense to put in all efforts to make it as good as possible, because it will be used for years and years typically, and because it costs so much time and effort, it makes sense to do it one time and do it good the first time. So it takes time eventually, and take that time. That's maybe more important. Put in efforts, put in time, put in expertise. So try to consult as many people as possible. Like I said, stakeholders, colleagues, maybe ask clients. If you have like good relationship with clients or partners, ask them as well. And please, people, leverage tools so you don't have to do the lifting, the heavy lifting yourselves. So I hope that all made sense. If you're interested, by the way, in the SEA checklist, please let us know. Reach out to me, mark@scientialmarketing.com, and I'll be happy to share it with you. For now, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for signing up, and I hope I could aid you and help you a little bit with your keyword research. Because like I said, it's like the fundamental part of search engine advertising and search engine optimization. It's like the backbone of digital marketing. So make sure you allocate as many time as possible and try to do it as good as possible in the first time. So thank you for watching, and hopefully, we keep in touch and we speak each other next time. Bye. Enjoy the day.